Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Hope you got a good night's rest and that you are ready to get this day going and to jumpstart your day with reading the word, listening to me read you the word. We're still in week 33. This is actually the last day of week 33, and we are going to be reading day 231. It is August 18th. And we are in a brand new book today in Old Testament. We are going to start reading out of the book of Esther. And Esther is an amazing woman. I did a actual Bible study specifically on the book of Esther, and I learned so much. It was a great Bible study. And I'm planning on starting another YouTube channel that doesn't have any, this is strictly for reading the Bible, but I am going to start another YouTube channel where I'm going to offer all kinds of stuff, but it's going to be called Saved Savages, because I feel like that's what we are. Those of us that are saved, we were once savages, and now we are saved. And I saw Saved Savage on a t-shirt and just loved that whole concept. And so I happened to get that t-shirt around the same time that I was coming up with ideas for another YouTube channel. And so I designed a logo and added an S to Savages. And my new channel is Saved Savages. So if you ever get a chance to go check it out, that would be great. It's just starting. It's brand new. There should be some videos uploaded already because I'm actually a week ahead in my readings. But the week that these are going to be released is going to be the week that I'm going to try to start uploading some videos for that channel. So hopefully I stay on track and I don't get behind, because if I get behind, then this is going to be weird if you go look for Saved Savages and there's no channel for it. Well, the channel's created, but no videos. I haven't uploaded any yet, but I'm working on it. Okay, so anyways, like I said, we are in a new book, the book of Esther, and we're going to be reading chapter 1 today, verses 1 through chapter 3 to verse 15. This is what happened during the time of Xerxes. The Xerxes, who ruled over 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. At that time, King Xerxes reigned from his royal throne in the citadel of Susa. And in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his nobles and officials. The military leaders of Persia and Media, the princes, and the nobles of the provinces were present. For a full 180 days, he displayed the vast wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and glory of his majesty. When these days were over, the king gave a banquet lasting 7 days in the enclosed garden of the king's palace for all the people, from the least to the greatest, who were in the citadel of Susa. The garden had hangings of white and blue linen, fastened with cords of white linen and purple material, to silver rings on marble pillars. There were couches of gold and silver on a mosaic pavement of porphyry, marble, mother of pearl, and other costly stones. Wine was served in goblets of gold, each one different from the other. Fancy. And the royal wine was abundant, in keeping with the king's liberality. By the king's command, each guest was allowed to drink in his own way, for the king instructed all the wine stewards to serve each man what he wished. Queen Vashti, sorry, I didn't mean to be so high-pitched. Queen Vashti also gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. Okay, this is Xerxes is the king, and Vashti is the queen. This is such a fascinating story. I'm going to really enjoy reading this story. On the seventh day, when King Xerxes was in high spirits from wine, he commanded the 7 eunuchs who served him, Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, to bring before him Queen Vashti, wearing her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and nobles, for she was lovely to look at. But when the attendants delivered the king's command, Queen Vashti refused to come. Then the king became furious and burned with anger. Since it was customary for the king to consult experts in matters of law and justice, he spoke with the wise men who understood the times and were closest to the king: Karshena, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 nobles of Persia and Media who had special access to the king and were highest in the kingdom. According to law, what must be done to Queen Vashti? He asked. She has not obeyed the command of King Xerxes that the eunuchs have taken to her. Then Memucan replied in the presence of the king and the nobles, Queen Vashti has done wrong, not only against the king, but also against all the nobles and the people of all the provinces of King Xerxes. For the queen's conduct will become known to all the women, and so they will despise their husbands and say, King Xerxes commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she would not come. This very day, the Persian and Median women of nobility who have heard about the queen's conduct will respond to all the king's nobles in the same way. There will be no end of disrespect and discord. Therefore, if it pleases the king, let him issue a royal decree, and let it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be repealed. That means taken back. Once this law is made, there's no going back, no do-overs. That Vashti, the queen, is never again to enter the presence of King Xerxes. Dang, that's a harsh punishment. Also, let the king give her, and this is what King Xerxes' advisors are telling him. Also, let the king give her royal position to someone else who is better than she. Then, when the king's edict is proclaimed throughout all his vast realm, all the women will respect their husbands, from the least to the greatest. So his advisors basically told him what to do in order to keep his honor intact and to make sure that no discord was brought about the peoples. Pretty harsh. But I can see their point. I can see, because that would be kind of a big deal if she did that. If she slighted the king, he is the king. She's the queen, but he's the king. So you can't just you can't do that. So the king and his nobles were pleased with this advice. So the king did as Memucan proposed. He sent dispatches to all parts of the kingdom, to each province in its own script, and to each people in its own language, proclaiming in each people's tongue that every man should be ruler over his own household. Later, when the anger of King Xerxes had subsided, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what he had decreed about her. Then the king's personal attendants proposed, let a search be made for beautiful young virgins for the king. Let the king appoint commissioners in every province of his realm to bring all these beautiful girls into the harem at the citadel of Susa. Let them be placed under the care of Haggai, the king's eunuch, who is in charge of the women, and let beauty treatments be given to them. Then let the girl who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This advice appealed to the king, and he followed it. Now there was in the citadel of Susa a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin named Mordecai, son of Jair, the son of Shemaiah, the son of Kish, who had been carried into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Among those taken captive with Jehoiachin, king of Judah, Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither father nor mother. Making a note here. This girl, who was also known as Esther, was lovely in form and features, and Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. So Esther was an orphan, okay? And her uncle took her in and raised him as his own, like a daughter. So when the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many girls were brought to the citadel of Susa and put under the care of Haggai. Esther also was taken to the king's palace and entrusted to Haggai, who had charge of the harem. The girl pleased him and won his favor. Immediately, he provided her with her beauty treatments and special food. He assigned to her 7 maids selected from the king's palace and moved her and her maids into the best place in the harem. So immediately, she's already being shown favor. She's getting 7 attendants, 7 maids that are just going to wait on her. Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because Mordecai, which is her uncle, had forbidden her to do so. Every day he walked back and forth near the courtyard of the harem to find out how Esther was and what was happening to her. Before a girl's turn came to go in to King Xerxes, she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatments prescribed for the women, 6 months of oil of myrrh, and 6 with perfumes and cosmetics. And this is how she would go to the king. Anything she wanted was given her to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. In the evening, she would go there, and in the morning return to another part of the harem to the care of Shashgaz, the king's eunuch who was in charge of the concubines. She would not return to the king unless he was pleased with her and summoned her by name. When the turn came for Esther, the girl Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle Abihail, to go to the king. She asked for nothing other than what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the harem, suggested. And Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. She was taken to King Xerxes in the royal residence in the 10th month, the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Now the king was attracted to Esther more than any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the other virgins. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. And the king gave a great banquet, Esther's banquet, for all his nobles and officials. He proclaimed a holiday throughout the provinces and distributed gifts with royal liberality. When the virgins were assembled a second time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. But Esther had kept secret her family background and nationality, just as Mordecai had told her to do. For she continued to follow Mordecai's instructions as she had done when he was bringing her up. During the time Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bigthana and Teresh, 2 of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. But Mordecai found out about the plot and told Queen Esther, who in turn reported it to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. And when the report was investigated and found to be true, the 2 officials were hanged in a gallows. All this was recorded in the book of annals in the presence of the king. After these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, elevating him and giving him a seat of honor higher than that of all the other nobles. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor. And I remember when I studied this, I was confused as to why King Xerxes honored this other man that didn't do anything. And I don't know exactly the details, but it did cause some, Mordecai became angry because he wasn't given any credit and this random guy was. So I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just going to keep reading. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's commands?" Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it to see whether Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated, for he had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. So remember, this guy Haman is upset with Mordecai because Mordecai does not respect him, because for some reason the king gave him the credit for what Mordecai had done. I don't know how that got twisted or turned around or whatever, but because of this, and Haman realizing that Mordecai was a Jew, Esther is a Jew also, but King Xerxes does not know she is a Jew because she has not revealed her background or that she's even related to Mordecai. And Mordecai's always outside the king's gate, keeping an eye on her, pacing and, doing stuff, which is how he discovered the plot to kill King Xerxes, which has a lot to do with why he would not honor and respect Haman. So now Haman is wanting to kill all of Esther's people. Okay, so in the 12th year of King Xerxes, in the first month, the month of Nisan, they cast the pur, P-U-R, that is the lot, in the presence of Haman to select a day and month. And the lot fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, "There is a certain people dispersed and scattered among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, whose customs are different from those of all other people and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them." So he just made up a lie just so he could have Mordecai and all of his people killed. "If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them. And I will put 10,000 talents of silver into the royal treasury for the men who carry out this business." So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. "Keep the money," the king said to Haman, "and do with the people as you please." Then on the 13th day of the first month, the royal secretaries were summoned. They wrote out in the script of each province and in the language of each people all Haman's orders to the king's satraps, the governors of the various provinces, and the nobles of the various peoples. These were written in the name of King Xerxes himself and sealed with his own ring. Dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and little children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality, so they would be ready for that day. Spurred on by the king's command, the couriers went out And the edict was issued in the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was bewildered. Okay, and that concludes the reading for Old Testament, which is going to get really good. It's a great story. Now we're going to move into New Testament, and we're still in the book of 1 Corinthians. We're in chapter 11, and we're going to be reading verses 17 through 34. In the following directives, I have no praise for you, for your meetings do more harm than good. In the first place, I hear that when you come together as a church, there are divisions among you, and to some extent, I believe it. No doubt there have to be differences among you to show which of you have God's approval. When you come together, it is not the Lord's Supper you eat, for as you eat, each of you goes ahead without waiting for anybody else. One remains hungry, another gets drunk. Don't you have homes to eat and drink in? Or do you despise the church of God and humiliate those who have nothing? What shall I say to you? Shall I praise you for this? Certainly not. For I received from the Lord that I also passed on to you. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink from it in remembrance of me. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." So whenever you go to a church and you see them, like Catholics do it fairly often, where they give the wafer and then and they drink. Some places give like grape juice or whatever. I don't think they ever give wine, but or little pieces of bread. Some churches do little pieces of bread. That's what they're doing. Therefore, whoever eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of sinning against the body and blood of the Lord. A man ought to examine himself before he eats of the bread and drinks of the cup. For anyone who eats and drinks without recognizing the body of the Lord eats and drinks judgment on himself. That is why many among you are weak and sick, and a number of you have fallen asleep. But if we judged ourselves, we would not come under judgment. When we are judged by the Lord, we are being disciplined so that we will not be condemned with the world. So then, my brothers, when you come together to eat, wait for each other. If anyone is hungry, he should eat at home, so that when you meet together, it may not result in judgment. And when I come, I will give further directions. All right, and now we're going to move on to the book of Psalm, chapter 35, verses 17 through 28. O Lord, how long will you look on? Rescue my life from their ravages, my precious life from these lions. I will give you thanks in the great assembly. Among throngs of people, I will praise you. Let not those gloat over me who are my enemies without cause. Let not those who hate me without reason maliciously wink the eye. They do not speak peaceably, but devise false accusations against those who live quietly in the land. They gape at me and say, "Aha, aha! With your own eyes, we have seen it. With our own eyes, we have seen it. O Lord, you have seen this. Be not silent. Do not be far from me, O Lord. Awake and rise to my defense. Contend for me, my God and Lord. Vindicate me in your righteousness. O Lord, my God, do not let them gloat over me. Do not let them wink. Do not let them think, aha, just what we wanted, or say, we have swallowed him up. May all who gloat over my distress be put to shame and confusion. May all who exalt themselves over me be clothed with shame and disgrace. May those who delight in my vindication shout for joy and gladness. May they always say, the Lord be exalted, who delights in the well-being of his servant. My tongue will speak of your righteousness and of your praises all day long. And last but not least, we have the book of Proverbs, chapter 21, verses 19 and 20. Better to live in a desert. Here we go again with the nagging, quarreling, unhappy wife. Better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and ill-tempered wives. Wives, y'all gotta watch yourselves. In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has. Okay, guys. I know I got a little line across my nose, a little rabbit nose now. Anyways, so I hope that you enjoyed the reading today, and I hope that you come back tomorrow to start a brand new week, week 34. And next week we will be going over days 232 to 238. We're just moving right along. I'm very excited. Thank you again for spending your time with me and letting me read the Bible to you and listening to God's word and starting your day with his word. I so appreciate your time. Thank you again. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.